Hello and welcome to Mouse in the Mitten Trivia Pod, a podcast where you can test your Disney trivia knowledge over a variety of topics. My name's Court and I will be your host. Our game will consist of 5 rounds of 6 questions covering everything from your basic Disney knowledge to some unknown facts. Each question is worth 1 point unless otherwise noted. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Mouse in the Mitten. And if you're watching us over here on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, and of course, give this video a thumbs up as well. And there are always things that are changing at Disney, whether it's food, how they're doing lightning lanes, everything else like that. If you want someone to help navigate all those changes to make sure you have the most magical vacation you can possibly have, I would love to be able to help you out. To be able to do that, all you got to do is email me at mouseinthemitten@gmail.com and we can get you all squared away and all taken care of. Now, one of those changes is the lightning lane, is the Genie Plus system, and how they're going to run and how they're going to operate things. Now, the way that it's going to work for 3 out of the 4 parks is basically there's going to be 2 tiers of rides, and you can, if you go with the unlimited pass, you can go with 3 of those rides at a time and scheduling those lightning lanes, and one of those can be from the top tier and then the other 2 can be from the bottom tier, or all 3 can be from those bottom tier. So it's important to know these sort of things when kind of starting to plan your lightning lanes and which ones you're going to go with. So this round is going to kind of help you navigate that a little bit. For this round, all I'm going to do is ask you about a ride, and you just have to say, is that in tier 1 or is it in tier 2? So let's get started with question number 1. Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Question number 2. Soarin' Around the World. Question number 3. Slinky Dog Dash. Question number 4. Expedition Everest. Question number 5. The Haunted Mansion. And question number 6. Tower of Terror. I know this sounds a little bit like a round 2 part of the show, but we're gonna go with it and I'm gonna explain it a little bit, explain why some of these are in tier 1, and again what we can do with that information as well. So I'm gonna give you a few seconds, try to give you some time to think about the answers, and then I will return. All right, let's give you some answers and talk about why some of these are tier 1, what you can do with this information, and how it can affect your planning for your next Disney World trip. So question number 1. Tiana's Bayou Adventure, that is of course a tier 1 ride. Now again, for me, tier 1 means that you can only book one of those at a time. So if you decide to go with the bigger one, you decide to be able to book 3 lightning lanes at a time, you can book if you book Tiana's Bayou Adventure right at that week ahead of time, then you can only book 2 of the tier 2s after that. Now, after you check into Tiana's Bayou Adventure or even one of your tier 2s, yes, you can. It's kind of becomes where you can pick and choose from here and there and all that sort of stuff. But Tiana's is an example of a tier 1. Question number 2. Soarin' Around the World, that is also a tier 1. So for Epcot, that one is in the tier 1. That one's up there with Remy, with Frozen, and when I imagine when it reopens, Test Track. Question number 3. Slinky Dog Dash, that is of course a tier 1. That's right up there with also, it's going to be up there with a couple of other ones as well. I don't want to give it away. There are a couple of other ones in tier 1. I'm not going to give it away just yet. Question number 4. Expedition Everest, well, that is a tier 2. Now, this one's a little bit different. Animal Kingdom's a little bit different. There isn't a top tier for Animal Kingdom. So the way that Flight of Passage will work, that is an individual one. That is a virtual queue. That is, you're going to have to pay a little bit extra for that one. But for the other rides, for Expedition Everest, for Navi River, for Bugs Life, all that sort of stuff, that one you would just book 3 of those experiences at the time of those open. Question number 5. Haunted Mansion, that is tier 2. So tier 1 for Magic Kingdom is Tiana, it's Big Thunder, Peter Pan's on that list. There's a few other ones, and then majority of them are tier 2. Now, the way you want to think about tier 2, these are your rides that are not as popular, and these are your you know, shows, these are your character meet and greets, that sort of stuff. So when you think of trying to figure all those out for tier 2, it's the rides that are a little bit less popular. And that brings us to question number 6, Tower of Terror. That is tier 2. Believe it or not, Tower of Terror is one of the more popular ones, but they can get a lot of people in. So the wait times usually aren't that long, with the exception of a couple dates here and there. But Tower of Terror is a tier 2. Slinky Dog, we have Smuggler's Run, you have Rise of the Resistance, those, and Rock and Roller Coaster. Now that it's reopened, those are all tier 1 for Hollywood Studios. Tier 2 is again Tower of Terror. It's your shows, it's Muppets, it's Star Wars 3D, Star Tours 3D, those sort of things are tier 2. Again, this can be confusing. I can see why some people are a little bit confused. I think once the system is rolling, we'll be able to I'd be able to see how it works a little bit better. I'm going in August, so I'm excited to be able to try this out and see what it's like from the get-go. So again, if you have questions, email me, mouseinthemitten@gmail.com. Get you all squared away. Continuing on now into round number 2. Round number 2 is our fast facts round. This round will have simple questions that have simple answers. For today's category, we're talking about Disney dogs. So for this round, all I'm going to do is give you the name of a Disney dog. You just have to tell me what movie are they from. So let's get started with question number 1. Trusty. Question number 2. Nana. Question number 3. Doug. Question number 4. Copper. Question number 5. Toby. And question number 6. Chiffon. All right, yeah, we're talking about dogs. After something that was as confusing as the last round, keeping it simple, keeping it fluffy, talking about man's best friend. So question number 1. Trusty, that is from Lady and the Tramp. I don't think I've ever talked about Old Reliable before. That's where we get him from. That is from Lady and the Tramp. Question number 2. Nana, that is from Peter Pan. Again, who names their dog Nana? That's my question. And why is she in a bonnet? Another great question. We did see a little tribute to her in Princess and the Frog, but definitely questions on why you named a dog Nana. Question number 3. Doug, that is from Up and He Loves You. Just keep that in mind. His name is Doug and he loves you. Also, squirrel. Moving on. Question number 4. Copper, that is Fox and the Hound. That is the hunting dog. Named him Copper because his color is kind of copper-ish, and I think it's a really cute name. Question number 5. Toby, that is from the Great Mouse Detective. He's a big help there to help them solve their mysteries. Last but not least, question number 6. Chiffon, that is the Shaggy dog. Now, he is a very talented dog. He can drive cars along with many other things. So definitely a cute dog and definitely very fluffy as well. Hence the name Chiffon. It's supposed to be like he's a big fluffy dog. That's why you get the name there as well. So again, talking about some of man's best friends and talking about our favorite pets, our dogs. Continuing on now into round number 3. Round number 3 is connecting the circles. For this round, I will be giving you 5 questions that may or may not be Disney related, but the answers do relate somehow through Disney, and that's going to be your 6th and final question is, what is that connection? So let's get started with question number 1. What is the number 1 most used street name in the US, being used almost 11,000 times across the country? Question number 2. What is a 9-letter word meaning an undertaking usually involving danger and unknown risk, or the encountering of risk? Question number 3. Fill in the blank. The last blank. Alaska and Antarctica both use this as their nickname. Question number 4. What is the one-word name for the number one form of sports betting done in the USA and is usually done with NFL players and sometimes sees a last place finisher do a punishment? Question number 5. The day after today is known as what? And question number 6 is, what is that connection? I'm going to give you a few seconds worth of music, seeing if you can connect those circles, and then I will return. All right, let's see if we can connect those circles. So question number 1. What is the number one most used street name in the US, being used almost 11,000 times across the country? Well, that is Main Street. There are almost 11,000 Main Streets across the US, and that was according to a 2022 survey. And apparently the most commonly used address in the world is 201 Main Street. That's one of the reasons why I think you see it so frequently in different shows, is Main Street, just because there are so many of them. Question number 2. What is the 9-letter word meaning an undertaking usually involving danger and unknown risk, or the encountering of risk? That is adventure. You go on an adventure, there's risk involved, it's undertaking that risk, it's kind of knowing that risk. That is going on an adventure. Question number 3. Fill in the blank, the last blank. This is both Alaska and Antarctica's nickname. That is the last frontier. So the answer we're looking for there is frontier. So yeah, Alaska and Antarctica share the nickname the last frontier. Question number 4. What is the one-word name for the number one form of sports betting done in the USA and is usually done with NFL players and sometimes sees a last place finisher do a punishment? That is fantasy. Sometimes can be shortened to just the word fantasy, but oftentimes called fantasy football. Yes, I partake in fantasy football. If you're watching this on YouTube, you see I'm wearing my Lions hat. We are in July. That means we are getting ready for the football season approaching. And yes, in August, be prepared for some football related questions, just because it's football season. It's one of my favorite seasons. I get super excited. And to answer your question, no, I've never done a last place punishment because, well, punishments became a thing not too long ago. When I finished last place, it was before that time, so I'm good. I was saved. Last but not least, question number 5 here. The day after today is known as what? Well, that is tomorrow. So if you had said Friday, I get it. I understand. But the correct answer we're looking for there is tomorrow. So question number 6, what is the connection? Well, we had answers such as Main Street, adventure, frontier, fantasy, and tomorrow. Well, those are all the lands shared by both Disney World and Disneyland. Main Street USA, Adventureland, Frontierland, Fantasyland, and Tomorrowland. Those are all the shared names of lands between the two parks. Now, there are some different ones. Disneyland has New Orleans Square, Disney World has Liberty Square, so on and so forth. There are a couple differences, but these are the same ones. Now, they went with Main Street USA. I mean, it was the number one name for the streets way back in the 50s as well. So that's why they called it Main Street USA. It was kind of to depict the Main Street of all of our childhoods and all of our memories. That's why they went with that. Frontierland, obviously the last frontier. There's a lot of things there that kind of envelop that. Tomorrowland, same thing. Adventureland, Fantasyland, all those kind of have some similar rides in both as well. But those are those shared nicknames. Hopefully you're able to connect those circles. Continuing on now into round number 4. Round number 4 is traditionally used as our movie anniversary round, and today is no different. Today we're going to talk about Tron. Not the new one, the original OG Tron from way back in the day. Going to talk about a great movie where it broke some barriers or broke some ground and the way that movies are made, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through this round. Let's get started with question number 1. The Dude, Ironmonger / Obadiah Stane, and Coach Burt Vickerman are all roles played by Tron's lead actor. Who is that actor? Question number 2. Within 2, What year was the original Tron released in the US? Question number 3. Tron Light Cycle Run is the newest coaster in Disney World, and what other Disney park? Question number 4. Tron was not nominated for an Academy Award because the committee saw what usage as cheating and decided to not give Tron a nomination for special effects. It was the same reason animators refused to work on Tron in fear of what would happen if the movie was a success. Question number 5. When it comes to debugging to a debugging command using basic programming language, what does Tron stand for? And question number 6. What other classic arcade game makes an appearance in Tron and was seen on Sark's control screen just after the light cycles escaped the game grid? Alright, this movie's an oldie but a goodie. It's a fantastic watch. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to try to think of the answers, and then I will return. Let's get some answers and talk about Tron. So question number 1. The Dude, Ironmonger / Obadiah Stane, and Coach Burt Vickerman are all roles played by Tron's lead actor. Who is that actor? We're of course talking about Jeff Bridges. Probably his most iconic role as the Dude. This one is up there, kind of top tier, top middle tier. Tier 1's probably the Dude by himself, and then this one's probably in that second tier of also other well-known roles that Jeff Bridges has had. Now, this is a little bit earlier than some of the movies that he is probably more known for, but definitely a very good one as well. Question number 2. Within 2, what year was the original Tron released in the US? Well, it was released on July 9, 1982. So in order to get the point there, we would have to say between 1980 and 1984. Now, again, we're going to talk about this here in a little bit, but this movie did break the ground for a lot of different things that we see today when it comes to movies. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Question number 3. Tron Light Cycle Run is the newest coaster in Disney World, and what other Disney park? Well, that is Shanghai Disneyland. Now, if you've seen some of the behind the attractions, you know that this is kind of the next iteration of Space Mountain. How they've kind of taken the Space Mountain idea, and Tron Light Cycle Run is kind of that next step. Shanghai has the first one, Disney World has the second one, and it's one of my favorite rides. I absolutely love it. It's so much fun that when you go from like standing still to like 60 miles per hour in like 3 seconds or whatever it is incredible. It's no other feeling like that. Question number 4. Tron was not nominated for an Academy Award because the committee saw what usage as cheating and decided not to give Tron a nomination for special effects. Well, that was the use of computers. The way that they used to do special effects wasn't with computers. You think about Star Wars, which came out around this same time. It used a lot of miniatures, used a lot of camera angles, that sort of stuff. This was one of the first movies that really embraced the use of computers. And it was the reason why a lot of Disney animators didn't really want to work on this movie. They were afraid that the computers were going to take away some of their jobs. Now, obviously, every movie that is made today in terms of animation, that sort of stuff, is done on computers. They use a lot of the technology that was started with the making of Tron way back in the 80s to create some of the most well-known animated movies today. Not just here in the US, but we can see it in other areas as well, whether it's 2D or 3D. So we have seen it. Now, I guess the biggest thing is, will AI take away some of those jobs? And there's some concern there now. But there was some concern way back in the 70s and 80s that computers are going to take away animators' job. Turns out they did in a different way. Now we have more animators than ever, but they're using that technology to make some of the most beautiful movies you will ever see. Question number 5. When it comes to a debugging command using basic programming language, what does Tron stand for? It stands for trace on. So if you have ever seen the movie, you know that this is kind of what happens at the beginning of the movie. Is Jeff Bridges' character is trying to trace where one of his programs went and see where it got destroyed, all that sort of stuff. So it's the tracing of those programs. Last but not least, question number 6. What other classic arcade game makes an appearance in Tron and was seen on Sark's control screen just after the light cycle escaped the game grid? Well, that is Pac-Man. We see it. We hear the waka waka waka. I'm guessing if I had said name an arcade game from the 80s, this was probably one of the first ones that came to mind. If not, it was in that shuffle of some of the classic arcade games. Again, it's interesting to see the technology way back that they used to make this movie, and it just makes it that much more enjoyable to see where they are then, and then to see Inside Out 2 just how far that technology when it comes to computer animation has gone. Continuing on now into round number 5 and wrapping up today's game, we're going to do another movie anniversary. And this time we're going to talk about Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. This is the OG. This is the movie that started them all. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some of the people involved with it and talk about some of the awesomeness that came from this movie. So question number 1. Curse of the Black Pearl made its debut on June 28th, 2003 at what Disney park? Question number 2. As of today, how many Pirates of the Caribbean have been made? Question number 3. What actress plays Elizabeth Swann? Question number 4. What future Guardian of the Galaxy was also in The Curse of the Black Pearl? Question number 5. What food item was used by designers to create the effect of decomposition when the pirates become skeletons? And question number 6. Name the acting icon that turned down the role of Jack Sparrow, thinking that a pirate movie would not do well in theaters. He later took on the role of Captain Shakespeare in Stardust. All right, I'm going to give you a few seconds worth of music, try to come up with those answers, and then I will return to wrap up today's game. All right, let's give you some answers here and talk about Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. So question number 1. Curse of the Black Pearl made its debut on June 28, 2003 at what Disney park? Well, that would be Disneyland. That is the location of the original Pirates ride. So that is where they debuted the film, was in Disneyland. Now, it was released in theaters on July 9th in the US. So that from there was when it got released, and we're going off that anniversary. But the debut of the movie was in Disneyland. Question number 2. As of today, how many Pirates of the Caribbean have been made? They have made 5 Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, they were supposed to make a 6th, but then the whole Johnny Depp, Amber Heard thing started happening, so they put a pause on that. There's no word on if the 6th will be made or not. If they do, what's going to happen with Johnny Depp, with Jack Sparrow, that sort of stuff. All of those questions are still in the air. At this point, I believe they're done at 5. I don't foresee a 6th one being made, at least not with Johnny Depp and some of the other stars that were in the previous 5. Question number 3. What actress plays Elizabeth Swann? Well, that is Keira Knightley. Now, originally, the way the story goes, Keira Knightley thought that she was not going to do well in this movie. She actually packed for just a short stay. She thought she was going to get fired, and she ended up obviously not only being in the first one, but being in the rest as well. So yeah, she does a great job, and she is a fantastic actress, especially in this movie. Question number 4. What future Guardian of the Galaxy was also in The Curse of the Black Pearl? Well, that would be Zoe Saldana. So yeah, she was in this. She was one of the pirates that were on the ship, and she didn't have a huge role, but she did have a, I guess you would say, minor role. It's kind of in the middle of the road. It wasn't a major role, but she was part of this movie. And obviously, we know her from Guardians of the Galaxy. We know her from Avatar. Definitely has gone on to have a really, really good career. Question number 5. What food item was used by designers to create the effect of decomposition when the pirates became skeletons? Well, that was turkey jerky, and I think that was perfect. Turkey jerky is not that great. But it does have a fantastic texture that looks like something's decompositioning. So that to me made sense. And again, this is another example of what Tron was able to do. They were able to kind of build that bridge into what they were able to do in Pirates of the Caribbean and make these humans look like they were decompositioning until they became skeletons. So something that's kind of cool. Last but not least, question number 6. Name the acting icon that turned down a role of Jack Sparrow, thinking that a pirate movie would not do well in theaters. He later took the role of Captain Shakespeare in Stardust. Well, that would be Robert De Niro. Now, it's one of those things. The way that Johnny Depp portrayed Jack Sparrow, it's one of those roles where you cannot imagine anyone else playing that role. There's a lot of roles that are like that think about like The Office, how every person seemed like they were perfectly cast. We can't imagine anyone else playing any of those other roles. This is the same situation. I can't imagine anyone else besides Johnny Depp playing Jack Sparrow. I don't think Robert De Niro would have been a good fit. I don't think we would have gotten 4 more movies after The Curse of the Black Pearl. So I think it was a blessing and a curse. A blessing for Johnny Depp and for us fans. Curse for Robert De Niro, as Stardust just did not do that well. But again, a great movie, a fantastic franchise. We might be coming back to this franchise again in the future. Matter of fact, I can guarantee it we will. Well, I want to thank you for tuning in this week. I will return next Thursday with more questions and more fun. If you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, turn on that bell for notifications, give us a thumbs up, and also in the comments down below, let us know what your score is. If you're listening to us, make sure that you follow us on Apple. Make sure you download us wherever you can. Leave a 5-star wherever you can as well. Make sure you're following us on social media at Mouse in the Mitten on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And again, there are always changes being made to Disney and how the vacation plan and everything else that goes along with it. If you are someone who needs a little bit of help, need a little bit of assistance, and want to make your vacation the most magical vacation you possibly can, you can email me at mouseinthemitten@gmail.com and we can get you all taken care of. Well, my name's Court. The dog's name is Milo. I appreciate you tuning in this week, and I will see you next time.